Chapter 7, Treehouse Terror. Several of the zombies in the backyard looked as if they had teamed together and were slowly pushing a picnic table across the yard toward the base of the tree. Whether by climbing on each other or by climbing on the table, they were headed up into the treehouse. Zak knew he wouldn't have time to get back to his pack in the woods for his juggling balls before the zombies were able to climb up and get the girl. The only thing he had with him was the bullwhip. "Hey!" he yelled to the girl in the treehouse, whose head whipped around in surprise at a word other than brains being said. She rushed to the window and yelled, "Help us!" "Do you have any weapons?" Zak shouted over the sound of the zombie horde. The girl looked confused, looked back into the treehouse, and then yelled back, "Yes, a whole box full. Why?" "So I can get you out of there. Stand back." The girl moved back from the window as Zak carefully climbed to the top of the fence. Yelling back and forth had caused enough commotion that several of the zombies broke off from the main pack and started heading for Zak, who was barely clinging to the top of the fence. The zombies were about as tall as the fence, which meant as soon as they reached it, they'd be able to grab Zak's legs and pull him down to feast on his head. Moving as quickly as possible while still retaining his balance, Zak crouched on the top of the fence and then carefully straightened up and grabbed the end of a branch coming from the tree to steady himself. The zombies were almost at the fence when Zak grasped the handle of his bullwhip, yanked it out of the belt holder, and let the 10-foot length uncoil below him. 2 summers before, Zak's dad showed him how to crack the whip, making a sound like a gunshot, as well as use it to wrap around objects. Zak practiced for months until he could make the whip grab anything, including tree limbs above him. He had a swinging rope no matter where he went with his bullwhip. Now all that practice was going to be good for more than just show business and playing around. Twirling the bullwhip above his head, Zak aimed for a branch above the treehouse and, just as he'd done hundreds of times before, the end of the whip wrapped around the branch. Zak took a deep breath, let go of the branch, grabbed the whip handle with both hands, and kicked away from the fence and the zombies reaching for him and swung toward the treehouse. The branch the whip had wrapped around bent just enough that Zak had to lift his feet to keep from colliding with the taller zombies. If they'd been able to move faster, some of them might have been able to grab him. His swing ended just at the window of the treehouse, and he grabbed the sill with one hand and scrabbled his feet against the side of the treehouse, trying to get inside. The girl inside reached through the window, grabbed Zak's shirt, and helped pull him inside, where he tumbled to the floor. Zak kept hold of the whip, and once he was back on his feet, he leaned out the window, gave the whip a flip to unwrap it from the tree limb, and coiled it as it fell down. And he felt incredibly cool that everything had worked so smoothly. Turning away from the window, Zak slipped the coiled bullwhip back into the holder on his belt and turned to look at the girl he'd come to save. She was about his height, maybe a little taller, but she was wearing shoes and he wasn't, so he decided not to count that. Her brown eyes looked scared and her voice had a quaver as she handed him a box. "Here, and thanks for coming to get us. Me." Zak took the box of wet wipes she was handing him and felt confused. He wondered if maybe his face was really dirty or something. "They're not wet ones," the girl said. "They're a different brand, but they'll work, won't they?" "Wet ones?" "Yeah, you asked if I had any wet ones, and I thought these should work just as well as those." Zak's confusion turned to anger. "I said weapons. Weapons. Why would I want wipey things?" He tossed the pack of wet wipes aside and glared at her as the zombie sounds got louder outside. She snapped back, "Well, why would I have weapons in a treehouse? That's not even a thing." Then tears welled up in her eyes and she turned away and sat down on the top of a closed picnic basket. "Now we're all trapped in here. We're all gonna die." And then she really started to cry, which made Zak feel horrible for lashing out at her. "Hey, don't cry. Come on, I have a plan. We'll get out of here." The girl wiped her eyes on her sleeve and looked up at Zak with a faint glimmer of hope in her eyes. "You have a plan? Really?" "Positive." Zak didn't have a clue how they were going to get out. It looked hopeless to him,